All right, you guys, we are back. It's EQ, and up next we have some explosive details. This video is entitled P. Diddy's Disturbing X Trafficking Indictment Released. Shout out to Law and Crime for the video. They always do some awesome breakdowns. I feel like this was inevitable. Fam, if the feds are onto you with their conviction rate of 90-something%, if they're even like suspicious of you, they pretty much got you dead to rights. When the government is holding an investigation, they're putting a lot of money and they're going to see a return on their investment, with that being like a conviction. One of the craziest details I saw was that during the raid, they confiscated 1,000 bottles of lube and baby oil, which, fam, you were up to some nasty, nasty business. So unless you were trying to build the world's biggest slip and slide, fam, bro, what the hell were you doing, bro? I feel like this is the tip of the iceberg, and this may cause other people now to come out and say their story, which, given the stories that we already have, I feel like are going to be crazy in their own right. But enough dilly-dallying. Let's jump right into the video. Again, it's entitled P. Diddy's Disturbing X Trafficking Indictment Released.
Welcome, everybody. I am Jesse Weber, and we are coming to you right now with special coverage regarding the arrest and indictment of Sean Diddy Combs.
This has got to be one of the biggest fall from graces ever. Like, fam, this is going to be studied for like generations.
Before we get started, you hear that little noise in the background? There's a fire alarm going off. Timing could not be worse, but it is okay. In my hands right now is the recently, I'm telling the last 10 minutes, unsealed indictment against Sean Combs, and I'm going to read it for you, and I'm going to go through it with you. I am breaking this down in real time. I haven't had a lot of time to really look at this. I'll give you my initial impressions, but remember, the music mogul, artist, producer, he's been arrested out in New York City. Reporting indicates that he was taken into custody last night by federal authorities at the Park Hyatt Hotel. This apparently comes after a grand jury has...
I said this in the video earlier, but I wonder if he kind of knew that the shoe had dropped and they were coming for him, which is why they arrested him a day before they were actually planning to. Or maybe it was just a curveball, because you never know. Somebody with the resources like Diddy, it's not unsafe to assume that he would be able to get like a mole or somebody that would be able to give him this type of info.
Has indicted him, which is not surprising. This is not something that we didn't expect. There was reporting for months that the 54-year-old would be the target of a criminal investigation, and this comes after his homes in Los Angeles and Miami were raided back in March. Now, he has been hit with...
I wonder if King Combs, Diddy's son, regrets taunting the feds in his 50 disc. Like, bro, that was unnecessary. And yeah, these charges were coming, but maybe you sped it along because people can get petty.
Numerous lawsuits alleging sexual assault, sex trafficking, illegal narcotics possession, gun possession. Now, to be clear, we didn't know what the charges would be.
Those are all the signs of a RICO, fam.
And it looks like our guest was right, because as Mark Agnifilio, his attorney, said to the press today and last night, they were anticipating racketeering and sex trafficking charges. And that is what we see in this grand jury indictment. It is 14 pages long. There are 3 counts. One that makes up the majority of this indictment is the racketeering enterprise. So let me go through it with you right now.
If you guys don't know what the RICO Act is, it was basically instituted to stop the mob. Because if you don't have, let's just say, if you don't catch the boss red-handed, if you don't catch the smoking gun in their hand, then you really couldn't charge them. So with the RICO Act, now if they had any connections to the crime, you could lump all these otherwise isolated crimes into one charge. And that's why they have such a high conviction rate. They're really hard to defend against. And now if you, let's just say, some of the details in the thug. So let's just say you pay somebody's car rental for them to go commit a crime. Now you're on the hook for that, which before the RICO Act you couldn't do.
Now, racketeering, and by the way, I will tell you this is similar to what we saw with R. Kelly, who, as we know, was also indicted in federal court in New York. That was the Eastern District of New York. This is the Southern District. He was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 30 years in prison. So racketeering, what we are talking about here, is a criminal enterprise. And a conspiracy to commit the racketeering statute is there's a criminal agreement, there's a number of overt acts, there's predicate crimes. So there's things that Diddy is not necessarily being charged with on an individual basis, but they make up this criminal enterprise. In other words, there's evidence that will show this is a criminal enterprise. So I'm going to go through it with you right now. Again, this is from the Southern District of New York. It says overview, count 1, racketeering conspiracy. For decades, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, PD, Love, they always use his name throughout this, the different monikers. The defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business.
And yeah, while I give credit for some of these people coming out and confirming these stories and allegations, fam, at the end of the day, like, let me know in the comments, do you guys think they should face any consequences just because they were so complicit in so much? Like, not only this, but even the R. Kelly trial, you had people making makeshift bedrooms in the studio, knowing what he was very well doing. They had people like literally recruiting at McDonald's, like, fam, like, I produce, and out of LA, you meet a lot of artists. And I had one artist who I won't name, but we were talking, where she had a show with him, and before the show, like, fam, R. Kelly sent somebody with a note, and the dude was like, "Hey, Robert would like to meet you." And gave her the note. She opened it up, and it was his phone number. So, like, do you guys feel like they should face the consequences? Because I definitely do. Definitely thank you for confirming the stories, but bro, you basically were an accomplice to all this stuff.
Business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Few things here. One,
fam, if you took Diddy's name off of this and just left it blank or redacted, like, yo, you could assume it was Lucky Luciano. You could assume it was Al Capone with the level of stuff he was doing.
Diddy is Sean Combs is the only one who's actually listed in this indictment. He's the only named defendant. You have to wonder if anybody else will be cooperating with the government against him. Now, I will let you know after a brief overview of this, I have not seen the specific names of any other individuals, including the people who filed lawsuits against him. But what this does indicate,
I wonder if it's because the influence Diddy like possesses. The dude is still very, very powerful. Maybe they're like, yo, let's not put these names out yet because who knows? It could lead to some witness intimidation, some witness tampering. He's already been accused of this stuff. So maybe it's like, all right, let's keep our cards close to our chest. Let's not show our cards yet, basically. A lot of these, because it's the RICO, they are going to base their stuff on a bunch of other crimes. And we already know they have spoken to Cassie. They have spoken to Lil Rod, amongst probably many, many more. Security guards, all sorts of employees. Like fam, like I said, if they're going to invest in a case like this is millions of dollars. They're going to want to see a return on investment. So usually they only pick cases that they know is a slam dunk.
Is they're trying to establish that there was a criminal enterprise and it wasn't just him, it was his associates. And he is not being charged, I should say, with federal kidnapping or arson or forced labor, but it is a component of the racketeering case. Let's move on. The defendant operated his business headquartered at various times in Manhattan, so you can see why Manhattan has jurisdiction here, and Los Angeles under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment. Combs Enterprises.
Why you gotta do Bobby Brown like that, man? He already got enough demons, fam.
And Combs Global. Corporate entities in the Combs business included, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, and they go on the different businesses that he has. At all relevant times in this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse toward women and other individuals. This abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, sexual. As part of this pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. By the way, that is eerily reminiscent of what we heard from the person you see right there, Cassandra Ventura. Remember, she filed a lawsuit against Combs back in November of 2023, settled the day after. She had talked about these freak-offs. She had talked about...
Definitely him abusing the power dynamics, him submitting somebody to his will. It's very eerily similar to the Harvey Weinstein case. He was doing all this stuff, which according to him was basically he wanted people to submit to his will. These are all power plays, and it's freaking disgusting, fam.
Being forced to engage in these kind of perverted sexual activities at the behest of Sean Combs. So this is kind of making this up. You wonder if she's a cooperating witness here. At times, Combs and others acting in his direction made arrangements for women and commercial sex workers to fly.
And honestly, we should all commend Cassie, because the amount of people that knew and were terrified of saying anything, or maybe they were just complicit in reaping the rewards of being one of his closest confidants. So no one really spoke up. You would hear rumblings and rumors and jokes and stuff like that, but nothing concrete. For Cassie to come out knowing the type of things and the type of person Diddy is and was, like, dude, yeah, man, you definitely got to give it up to her because, yeah, man, a lot of other people were definitely really scared.
At Combs' location. Combs ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same and using intimidation and violence. This is, by the way, characteristic of when we talk about sex trafficking, where you are forcing or coercing or threatening someone into commercial sex activities, or you're transporting them across state lines through coercion or different methods for illegal sexual activity. And so let's continue on. Physical abuse by Sean Combs, the defendant, was recurrent and widely known. On numerous occasions from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years, Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. These assaults were at times...
Yeah, man. This is all the evidence that was needed to, like, literally torpedo any credibility Diddy had, because he was so adamant about denying everything and saying he was innocent and that this was a shakedown for money. Knowing that this video existed is, yo, you're demonic and you cannot believe your own BS to that level, you know? Like fam, the sheer terror during this video, the way she was looking at Diddy, you could tell this obviously wasn't the first time. And this is one of those, like, I bet you this is one of those kidnapping charges that they named in the indictment. The dude had her forced against her will in the hotel room. She saw an opportunity to try to get out, and obviously the dude ran out the shower. So, like, fam, this is nuts, fam. Nuts, nuts, nuts.
Witnessed by others and included, this timing could not be better, what you're watching right now, one instance at a Los Angeles hotel in or about March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. That is Cassandra Ventura. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Combs' violence was also not limited to these women. It extended...
For a long time, just like R. Kelly, money for them was their biggest fix. Oh, let's give this guy 10 grand and he'll give us the tapes and he'll never bring it up again. And now it's like, yeah, man, this is like savage, man. This is all mob type of behavior, which is why the RICO was enacted. And yeah, man, the feds are on you, bro. I expect Diddy to be doing like 10, 15, who knows, maybe 20 years behind bars. These charges are serious, guys.
To his employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. Again, I read the R. Kelly indictment before this to get a sense. These allegations are eerily similar to what he was charged with and what he was ultimately convicted with. And by the way, we were wondering about whether or not that video, which Combs, remember, he admitted it was him. He went on Instagram.
That's probably a huge mistake, man. That's why, like, lawyers will say, don't say anything. Even if you think it's going to help you, it's not. They could just use it against you. With that being said, I think it's great that he did it, because now, like, for me, I think it was great for the case because now he can't deny and say that it wasn't him. Like, dude, you said it was you. You apologized for this directly, and probably the most narcissistic apology ever recorded.
And said and apologized for participating in that 2016 video. He didn't deny it. And we were wondering if this would be a part of this criminal indictment, this federal criminal indictment, and clearly it is. Sean Combs, the defendant, used the Combs business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse and commercial sex. That term is you're going to hear that a lot, commercial sex. Equate that almost with sex trafficking.
Well, obviously, he's getting like these male escorts and whatever escorts. That's all obviously transactional, bro. Like, this is the textbook definition of that.
Those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, high-ranking supervisors, and other close associates, acted as Combs' intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs business. Then it talks about the Combs enterprise, so this criminal enterprise. From at least in or about 2008, so you're going all the way back to 2008, through or on about the date of the filing of this indictment, so even to this day, the defendant and others known and unknown were members and associates of a criminal organization.
And they're saying 2008 because this is probably the earliest that they have anything concrete on him. But his reign of terror is more like since the 90s.
Members and associates.
He still has that Tupac investigation that's looming over his head. And bam, I'm pretty sure they probably have some type of like, I guess like, reference to that in this case. They got to. It's just another thing that kind of builds a profile on who he is. So like that, along with all the other stuff that's surrounding him, fam. Yeah, man. Like, this is pretty much looking like a slam dunk.
Associates of the Combs enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other things, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. A little bit later, you're going to see that he's also charged specifically with sex trafficking. But as I mentioned, all of these underlying alleged crimes can make up a racketeering case. They are predicate.
And that's what strengthens the case, having these multiple cases that maybe by themselves wouldn't be as strong or wouldn't hold up as well. When you combine them together, it's just honestly makes them almost impossible to defend against.
Crimes of a criminal enterprise. The Combs enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates, constituted an enterprise. And by the way, let me just take 1 second as I'm reading this. This is also eerily similar to the Rodney Little Rod Jones lawsuit. He was one of the first people to file a lawsuit, former producer of Sean Combs. He alleged violation.
Definitely looks like he's on Diddy time. And bro, the way he's longingly staring at him is crazy. But yeah, man, I feel like these are all references to these cases. It's just that, like I said, they're playing their cards close to their chest. And it's let's not show our cards just yet, because Diddy does have the power to get somebody to not talk or to disappear him. We don't know. But the level of stuff that he's being charged with, we can't put it past him that he'd want to silence the very people that could put him away. Who knows? Maybe for the rest of his life. 20, 30 years is a very long time, especially for somebody that's already 54.
Violations of racketeering law. So he was the one who made those allegations, and again, very consistent with what we are hearing here. And again, constituted an enterprise as defined under the United States Code, and this is a group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. So you can have a criminal enterprise. It doesn't have to be Sean Combs, Inc.
That's how they get gangs. The mob isn't going around and being we're the Mob LLC or we're the Mob Incorporated. Just them organized together forms the enterprise. So yeah, absolutely right, man. This is an awesome breakdown.
You have a bunch of people, they don't have to be incorporated. It can still be a criminal enterprise.
Facts.
The Combs enterprise consisted of the defendant entities within the Combs business, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, and then they go through a number of different entities and people known and unknown. The Combs enterprise.
Yeah, I feel like the band should add him just for making him walk to get the cheesecake, bro, and claim work abuse, because this is crazy.
Constituted an ongoing organization whose members functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs enterprise. The Combs enterprise was engaged in, and its activities affected interstate and foreign commerce. It operated in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. A couple of things there. So now you see why this is being brought in the Southern District of New York, why they have jurisdiction. When you talk about common purpose, if you've been following us here on Law and Crime and you have been following the Young Thug trial, a racketeering case, that is the #1 theme. The prosecutors in that case have been trying to establish that all of these underlying crimes were for the common purpose of furthering that gang. Here, there is a common purpose of furthering the Combs enterprise.
Well, of course, they have this ongoing intimidation and silencing that they do of anybody that they wrong. Is definitely worthy of all that.
At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, was the leader of the Combs enterprise. Sean Combs, the defendant, and others known and unknown, participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs enterprise's affairs.
Man, with him being arrested and him being indicted, I wonder what those people complicit are thinking and feeling right now. I want to say the Harv Pierres. I did read today that Kevin Lyles, the CEO of 300 Entertainment, stepped down as CEO. And kind of weird timing that it happens the day that Diddy gets arrested. And the people that have been around Diddy, not just him, but somebody like a Harv Pierre, who was definitely so vital for Bad Boy and who has been named in lawsuits himself. I wonder what they're thinking. Do they take this time to try to flee themselves? At this point, they're all flight risks, which is why I think they sped up the arrest on Diddy, because if he got wind of anything, how hard would it be for him to pay somebody to disappear him out the country? It happens all the time. You got to have the element of surprise, which is probably why they threw the curveball and picked him up a day early.
These individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistants, high-ranking supervisors, as well as other close associates of Combs. Now, we don't know if that's from digital evidence that they obtained. We don't.
Yeah, guys, definitely let me know if you guys think they should face the consequences for their actions. because at this point they are accomplices.
Know if those people around him are cooperating with the government, or we do not know whether alleged victims of Combs this is their perspective of who's been involved. Okay, purposes of the Combs enterprise. The purpose of the Combs enterprise included the following. A, operating a global business in the media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, and talks about record labels, recording studio, alcohol, spirits business. B, preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power, reputation, and brand of Sean Combs, the defendant, as a musician.
Everything he did in his life was to do that. So yeah, fam. Very, very relevant.
Entrepreneur and figure in the entertainment industry. Enriching members and associates of the enterprise, including its leader, Combs, and in particular those who demonstrated loyalty to Combs and willingness to conceal his crimes. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of the Combs enterprise, including the power of its leader, Combs, through violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. I know I said this a lot, but I'm just going to say it one more time.
The bill.
This is all consistent with what has been alleged in the multiple lawsuits that he has currently been facing, whether it is Cassandra Ventura, whether it's Joy Dickerson-Neal, whether it's Jane Doe, whether it is Rodney Jones. So again, this is not entirely out of left field with what has been asserted against him. Another purpose of the enterprise, fulfilling the personal desires of Combs, particularly those related to Combs' sexual gratification, including the exploitation of women and the use of commercial sex workers, enabling Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise to engage in unlawful acts of violence, including sexual violence, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, and it goes on. This one.
Yeah, man. Please. Next time, don't put Bobby Brown so much in there. Unless he has something to do with all this stuff. I hope Bobby didn't have anything to do with this, man, with the amount of times bro is putting him in here.
One's interesting. Another purpose of this enterprise, securing absolute loyalty from members of the Combs enterprise, including through acts of violence and threats. And that, again, is something that we heard, particularly in the Rodney Jones lawsuit, that he was allegedly threatened by the defendant. And then finally, the last purpose, protecting the Combs enterprise and its members and associates, including Combs, from detection and prosecution by law enforcement authorities through acts of intimidation, manipulation, bribery, and threats of retaliation. So
I wonder if all those other events that there's been rumblings and rumors and people have come out and spoken also get used in this case. I don't see why not. Obviously, they'd have to be sourced and vetted and made sure, all right, this is the truth. But like incidents like Wale being held over a balcony because he was working with Cassie secretly, and this is something that like Cassie had to do because Diddy wouldn't want her working with anybody alone. And he found out, got to the studio the next day and hung him over the balcony, and he never worked with her again. So I wonder if those things come into play, or if maybe the intimidation factor is still there and they're scared to even confirm it. And I also wonder if the arson case is related to the Kid Cudi like car explosion. Like, dude, this shit is crazy, fam. This is definitely, like I said earlier, if you take Diddy's name out, this is like some Lucky Luciano. This is like some like Salvatore Rigatoni type shit. You know what I mean? But yeah, fam, like this case is crazy. Like the documentary is going to be nuts. And with the fact that 50 is doing it, at least the first one, you know he's not going to pull any punches.
So that is essentially saying obstruction of justice, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, the means and methods of the enterprise. How did they do this? It says among the means and methods by Sean Combs, the defendant and other members, they used conduct and participate in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise. And there's a lot here. I'm not going to go through everything, but it basically says, one example, Combs and other members of the associates wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force, coercion to cause...
The dude is a freaking demon, dude. He probably not only used like the possibility of a relationship, he probably also floated around the idea that I could blow your career up.
Cause victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers. This is where they talk about the freak-offs, and they go into a little bit more detail about the freak-offs. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. Makes me wonder if that was what they obtained in those raids.
I feel like more than likely they did find that stuff, It seems like this guy does like to keep trophies. The fact that he still had that Cassie video says a lot. And with him being so big on surveillance, like the whole house being mic'd up and like the amount of cameras in there, would it surprise you that if some of these high profile people that attended these parties are on tape as well? Which is why you're not hearing them speak out with that, and also like the power that Diddy still has. And I know for sure people probably still owe him a lot, so they feel like, hey, even if he is a monster, I owe this dude my career, so I'm not gonna say nothing. The people that are potentially on these tapes, powerful people. Does Diddy go and get the Epstein treatment? Does he magically just take a nap and wake up, you know what I mean, deleted? It's gonna be crazy because this dude, if we know anything, if with the way he was moving, can we really rule out the fact that with him running around like a mob boss that he doesn't have dirt on a bunch of other people in case something like this were to happen? The RICO charges are known to be like I said earlier, like 20, 30, 15-year sentences. These RICO charges are like, dude, they're no joke. Does he go and snitch? Or do we have one of Diddy's underlings go and snitch on him? Do we see Harv Pierre go and like rat him out like for like lesser time? Time will tell. But yeah, man, this is just the beginning. And this is gonna go on for a little while. But like the details right now are disgusting, bro.
Goes on, members and associates of Combs Enterprise facilitated the freak-offs by booking hotel rooms for the freak-offs, stocking
Really
the hotel rooms in advance
R.
with the
Kelly.
required freak-off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, lighting, cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage, arranging for travel for victims, commercial
He's covering his tracks, man.
sex workers and Combs. So honestly, you're talking about an organization here, an organized effort to facilitate these alleged crimes. Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in freak-offs. He maintained control over his victims. And again, there's a lot.
Yeah, like I said, very Harvey Weinstein-esque, like power dynamics. I'm going to submit you to my will. And that's some monstrous stuff. Like these dudes are so rich with power that they feel like this is the only way they can get off. Like it's sickening.
Lot more here where they talk about this. This one. So this was important too because we knew that there were allegations of alleged illegal firearms possession. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise, including Combs security personnel, at times carried firearms. On more than one occasion, Combs himself carried.
And this guy has the history of this stuff. Shine always said it wasn't him that pulled the trigger, and the woman even came out and literally pointed the finger at Diddy. Yeah, and it's something she's been saying openly. It just hasn't been publicized much. But all right, are we going to revisit that now? Because that would only help in like cementing this case even further. I don't even know if they really need it.
Brandish firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including victims of and witnesses
to his abuse.
To get her like in or about March of
for that.
2024. During searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida. Is this fire alarm that important? Come on, guys. I'm going over the Combs indictment.
He said, F the fire, man. The content is king.
Here. I think we're fine. But anyway, it says in or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s with defaced serial numbers, as well as a drum magazine. Now, if you have been following us on Sidebar, you've been following us on Law and Crime, you know that that is now one of the charges facing the second.
Well, of course, it's huge. Like filing off the serial numbers is a huge felony, super illegal to do.
Potential attempted.
And obviously, you're using it for illegal purposes if you feel the need to do that.
Assassination of Donald Trump. Ryan Routh, in that case, has been charged with the federal crime of possessing a firearm that had the obliterated serial numbers. So again, while Sean Combs isn't charged with this directly, it is part of the underlying criminal conspiracy, the racketeering case. I'm going to go a little bit more forward here. So he talks a little bit more employees, witnesses to his abuse, or others threatened Combs' authority or reputation. Basically how he wielded power and influence to get people to do what he wants. Now, this is the section that talks about the racketeering conspiracy. From at least in or about 2008 through on or about the date of the filing of this indictment in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, the defendant and others, known and unknown, being persons employed by associated with the Combs Enterprises. This is more of a legal definition about what racketeering is. It basically says that's enterprise they engaged in and the activities affected interstate and foreign commerce and knowingly combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed together. You need that agreement. And with each other to violate the racketeering laws of the United States. So there needs to be an agreement to violate the law. And
dude, they got this guy. This guy might not see freedom ever again, especially because that Tupac case is definitely looming over his head. Everyone kind of already has suspicions that he has something to do with it. And would it be surprising to find out, because there's always been rumors about him doing this to Biggie as well. At the time, Biggie wanted to leave the label, and he wasn't having that. You know, like, this is your bread and butter. He's your cash cow. You want to keep that. With Biggie gone, he keeps the rights to, like, literally the Biggie legacy, the Biggie brand. And it's like, the dude made countless millions and honestly built his career based off the back of Biggie.
That was to conduct and participate directly and indirectly in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprises through a pattern of racketeering activity. And it consists of, and this is where they have multiple different examples of the crime. So multiple acts involving kidnapping, chargeable under the following provisions of state law. Multiple acts involving arson. Multiple acts indicted under Title 18 relating to tampering with a witness. Multiple acts of forced labor. Multiple acts related to...
And telling you, man, Diddy Luciano, fam.
Sex trafficking. So these are all these predicate crimes that I talked about when you're trying to prove racketeering. The same thing was charged in the R. Kelly case. You recall with the racketeering, he was charged with respect to underlying crimes of forced labor and things of that nature. So again, very similar. In terms of drug offenses, multiple offenses here involving the possession with intent to distribute or distribution of narcotics, and they go through a list of them, including meth. It was a part of the conspiracy that Sean Combs agreed with a conspirator to commit at least 2 acts of racketeering activity. You need at least 2 acts within the course of a 10-year span to ultimately be found guilty of racketeering. And this is a special section. Notice of special sentencing factor. From at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, as part of his agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, the defendant agreed to, in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, advertise, maintain, patronize.
I mean, you're going around doing these crimes and then booking them flights, fam. That's X trafficking right there.
And solicit by any means a person knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion. This is described in a specific code. Any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in a commercial sex act. So it's kind of a sex trafficking allegation there. And I believe, and I don't want to misstate here, and I'm going to look it up real quickly, I believe that this is actually a violation that could carry 20 years in prison. I'm just confirming it right now.
Like I said, man, these RICO charges are long bids. If he has some dirt on somebody, he's going to snitch. It's going to definitely make it very unsafe for him behind bars.
Now, this is the racketeering conspiracy. I'll get back to that and double check it. But that was all. Everything I just went through was count 1 in the indictment. Count 1. So now here is count 2. Sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, victim 1. Now, we don't know who victim 1 is. That person has not been identified. But it says, from at least in or about 2009 up into and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York, the defendant in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce. And it goes through the definition of what sex trafficking is, by means of force, threats of force, fraud, coercion, as described in the U.S. Code. Any combination would be used to cause the person to engage in a commercial sex act and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same.
Yeah, man, him bringing in those escorts, man, it leveled up all the charges, and they were already heinous.
A person that Combs recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, and maintained a person, and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused victim 1 to engage in commercial sex acts. So again, we do not know who this person is. We can take guesses as who they are, but
of course, everyone's going to probably try to like attribute it to Cassie, but the way he was moving, he was probably doing it to multiple people at the same time. I'm happy that the shoe finally dropped, but it does suck that most of these people took so long to confirm this stuff. I know it was partly based to fear and intimidation, but like, fam, some of these people were enablers and some of these people were accomplices. And I feel like the accomplices must face the consequences.
But you have to go through a number of these lawsuits. By the way, assuming that one of these people who have filed a lawsuit against him is victim one. Could it be someone else? We don't know. Yeah. Count 3, transportation to engage in prostitution. It's also a kind of sex trafficking charge. From at least in or about 2009 up into and including in or about 2004. The defendant knowingly transported an individual in interstate and foreign commerce with intent that the individual engage in prostitution and attempted, aided, and abetted and willfully caused the same to wit, Combs transported, aided, abetted, and willfully caused the transportation of female victims and commercial sex workers in interstate and foreign commerce on multiple occasions with the intent that they engage in prostitution. So again, that's a separate crime. I want to double check these, but I believe these could carry 10 years in prison. Yeah, and then finally, bro. So those are the...
He's cooked, bro. He's cooked, bro. Like, he's going to be producing R. Kelly shows in prison, fam, at this point.
3 counts in the indictment. You have these 2 sex trafficking related charges, and then you have the racketeering charge. And then finally, it ends with the forfeiture allegations. You see this a lot in criminal indictments. It's basically suggesting that if you lose this case, if you are convicted, you will have to forfeit over personal property over to the government. As a result of committing the offense alleged in count 1 of this indictment, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States any and all interest the defendant acquired or maintained in violation of the U.S. Code.
They're going to make sure they get almost all of it. Yeah, this guy's going to lose his probably entire fortune, fam. Like, this is crazy. Not only are the feds going to take a good portion of the funds, but like the dude still has that judgment that was issued because he failed to appear for $100 million. And he's trying to fight that. But like, yeah, man, these things are expensive and we already have seen them selling off assets more than likely in preparation for all this. This is getting really crazy. It's not getting really crazy. This is crazy, and it has been super crazy.
Interest in, securities of, claims against, contract rights, and it goes on, or source of influence over the enterprise named and described herein. So basically, if you profited off of the criminal enterprise, you will have to disgorge those profits, which is very interesting because they are talking about him engaging in an enterprise that made money, that was involved in the music and entertainment industry, but it was also involved in narcotics and different possession as well. Now, it says, as a result of committing the offense alleged in count 2 of this indictment, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States. And that's pretty much it. You have a couple more provisions, but that's a good synopsis of what you're seeing in this indictment right here. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We have a lot more coverage here on Law and Crime. Stay with us.
Yeah, fam. Definitely shout out to Law and Crime. That was a good breakdown. We all knew that this case was nasty. The details are starting to come out. I feel like, again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Maybe this emboldens other people to come in with their story. We might see Wale up on the stand. We might see Kid Cudi up on the stand. Who knows? For a long time, Diddy has been running his reign of terror. And it seems like it's over now, but we can't underestimate the fact that Diddy is still super connected. So I'm thinking that's a reason why they aren't releasing the names of any of like the witnesses and stuff like that. Let's keep our cards close and let's not like give away anything just yet, because Diddy has more than enough resources as of right now. But from the looks of it, they're gonna take all of it. They're gonna take almost all of it, and justifiably so. Like, the shit's crazy. Again, we should commend Cassie because it was her bravery that kind of kickstarted everything. 2024 has been the year of exposing. Cat Williams set it off, and it's only getting crazier. And the names of people that have been floating around that are going to be next, like, fam, the RICO Act has taken out like half of hip hop within the last few years. It's crazy at this point. But these people are doing it to themselves. You know, this guy was a demon. This guy was a monster. The fact that he was able to like apologize on camera, knowing that footage existed and knowing that this stuff really did happen, accusing Cassie of this being a shakedown, obviously now his credibility is shot. We're going to believe every accusation we hear, whether real or false. Even me, I'm leaning towards, like, if I hear something, it's more than likely true. With the Rico, the dude, he's pretty much dead to rights, man. They don't come after you unless they got a slam dunk because of the money it takes to prosecute these cases and to investigate these cases. These are $1 million cases. Like, yeah, man, they're going to see a return on investment, and usually they see it like 95+% of the time. Definitely let me know what you guys think about the indictment. Definitely let me know if you guys think that people complicit to face the consequences. I know a lot of them will probably snitch to try to bail themselves out or get a lesser sentence. It's going to be, time will tell. Definitely nasty business. We are witnessing one of the biggest fall from graces ever. Just last year, he was winning Icon Awards, Lifetime Achievement Awards. The documentaries are going to be crazy, and this is going to be something we talk about for a very long time. And honestly, we still have a ways to go before we see any resolution to this. I don't think that there really is anything that will take away the pain that some of the victims have felt, but like at the very least, they'll know that the dude is locked up and can't do these crimes anymore. But yeah, definitely let me know what you guys think. Definitely hit the like and subscribe button, guys. This channel wonders. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know the dialogues are going to be amazing for this one. So yeah, hope you guys love the video, and I hope to see you guys soon. He might get the Epstein treatment for this, because with the way he was moving, you know he got videotaped.